Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of CVtv. My name is Carlos, and I'm here with my co host, David Dockin, owner of Coralview. How are you, Dave?
Good, good. Doing good today. How about you, Carlos?
I'm doing well. I'm doing
Good.
well. How's the weather down there?
Oh, it's a beautiful spring day here. We got to enjoy these last few precious moments of cool weather because the heat is right behind us,
Oh my God,
coming on quick.
I'm looking at my phone right now, trying to see what the temperature is outside, and it is 48 degrees outside.
Oh my goodness.
So it's grilling weather for us right now.
Right.
And I can see it is not raining. Oh, you know what? A little bit of rain in there. Yeah, typical Chicago. Exactly. So I'm jealous. You're gonna get some good weather probably what next week?
Yeah, that's about it. Then it's gonna next thing you know, it'll be in the 90s. So
Ugh,
it'll be
yeah,
full summer.
and the humidity would be insane.
Exactly.
All right. So, everybody, thank you for joining us today. Our workshop is actually going to be advanced programming. And I've heard, a few people say that, Hydros is simple. The
Mhm.
Hydros can't do advanced things.
Hmm.
Um, um, and one of the things about Hydros is that we are so good at making things simple that people think that can't do advanced things. That's because we found a way to make advanced programming simple, you
Exactly.
know, and it's not a rocket science. I mean, we're let's be honest, Dave, we're not the ones that have developed this. I mean, there are websites out there, for God's sakes. Now you can actually create your own website. If you can create your own website, why can't you make things simple for an aquarium? It makes no
Exactly.
sense to me. So, just because you don't have to write code doesn't mean that it cannot do advanced things. It can. It actually can do more than what a person writing code can do. And the
Mhm.
and the bonus is that because you're using a form, it ensures that your syntax, as we call developers call it syntax, is typed correctly. Because if you write code and if you write something that the computer is not expecting, it won't work. The computer cannot read your mind. If you make a mistake, if you misspell something, if you put a word in the wrong order or a line in the wrong order, put line one where two is and two is where line one is, then the system is going to do something completely different. So
Yep.
having a form to do it for you in the back end, the form turns that into code that the computer can read, is literally what your computer, your desktop, your iPad is doing, you
Hmm.
know?
Carlos, we've been getting out and getting in the trade show circuit again this year as
Mhm.
COVID kind of calming down, and like you said, it's one of the biggest things we hear is people saying, "Well, I hear Hydros is just an entry level controller, and it can't do advanced features," and it's like, I don't know if that's noise from the competition or where that stems from, but like you said, just because you don't write code doesn't mean we can't do advanced features. And that's kind of
Exactly.
why we're here today is to show you how easy it is to do what these supposed advanced features are and do require a lot of code, a line of code or multiple lines of code with another controller, but for us, it's just simple widgets
Yeah,
that we can set
abs-
this up and do.
absolutely. Absolutely. So before we move on to the show, let's say hello to everybody because I mean, it's great to see. We have Chris Conti, Dave Paulson is here, John Braun is here, as well as Connor, Ellery as well from New York or the Connecticut what is it, Northeast. James Scott is here. So thank you so much, guys. You know what? Greg is here. Hey,
Hey, Greg.
our membership drive extraordinaire
Yeah.
is here. It's so good to see him. And Kevin is here as well as Russell. Let's quickly go to one question. James Scott asking, are you going to do more rap shows?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll
Abs-
be it. We'll be, I don't know
Absolutely.
if we go into New York, but I know we will be in California later this year. So
Exactly.
look for us out there. We'll be at Magna, and I think there might be a few smaller shows in between.
That's the thing about it is that, and this is a little bit of inside information when it comes to the way, Coral View thinks and a lot of companies think. Before COVID, we were you we were under the impression that we had to do the big shows. If we didn't do the big shows, then people wouldn't know who we are and everything. Then COVID hit, and you nobody could do any shows. And then we found out COVID hit, but we're still getting the word out. People are still, so you're like, okay, so do we continue to do shows or do we not do shows? So what we've come up with a kind of like a in the middle, in between, a compromise, is where we're doing a lot of, we're not going with the big booths anymore, but we're doing a lot of small shows because we like to meet people face to face.
Yeah, I think with this, especially with hydros, it's about getting out and educating people.
Correct.
I think people know we sell skimmers and reef octopus and plenty other lines. But with this product being as technical as it is, and the education needed behind it, we feel like we want to get behind this product that shows and just try and educate people about it. Kind of a grassroots effort, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's nothing better than, seeing Connor's smiling face grin, at a booth. He's like a big teddy bear welcoming you. He is.
He
He is.
loves his new toy.
He
His
does love
monitor.
his he does love his new toy. I'm telling you, after hours, he probably is playing games in there,
Right.
playing games or watching movies. I know it.
Right.
But yeah, no, we want to be able to meet people and be a little more approachable. Sometimes when you see those big booths out there, people are kind of afraid. So having the smaller booth, that's all we're doing, is we're trying to be more approachable, trying to get to see you in person, shake hands instead of just being over there. So it makes more sense to us. All right, so you are watching CVtv workshops. This is a hydros workshop on advanced features, and we're going to give you a little bit of a breakdown of what the advanced features are, and then we're going to give you a few examples of what you could do with those advanced features. So please, if you're watching, if you need to get your water, your tea, your beer, your glass of wine, go and get that right now and come back. You don't want to miss anything. In the meantime, while you get your water, for those people that are watching us for the first time, you can always, you can always subscribe. If you like the show, if you like what you see, at the end of the show, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, hit the thumbs up, and you'll be notified right away when a new show comes up, and you'll get an email as well. So it's great. If you have any questions about this workshop, or any question about a product that we're doing, you can always go to Facebook at Coral View Cares. It's a page, and it's a great group of people that are always willing to help. And if you have any questions specifically for hydros, you can always go to forum.coralviewhydros.com. It's a full forum community of people that are always willing to help. And the great thing about the forum, which is not so good about Facebook, is that you can search. So most likely, the question you're asking has already been asked. So all you got to do is go to forum.coralviewhydros.com, search for the question, and that if it hasn't, then ask away and somebody will answer. We usually answer pretty damn quickly, even on weekends, which is amazing. We got a great group of folks in there. I mean, it's like it's a selfish thing. They make it so easy for me because they are constantly answering questions. And that's not because we're paying them, not because anything. They just like the product.
Right.
At first it was, they liked it because they liked the option. It wasn't just one controller, and it's like the American way. You're in my way or the highway. But now it's more like because they like it and they like to see the development. So, all right, Dave, let's jump in.
Yeah.
So, some of the things that are advanced features on the controller may not seem that advanced. They are advanced, but to the hydros, they're actually quite simple. And they're advanced because the other controllers, you actually have to write code in order to achieve those little nuances, those little tweaks. But
Right.
with hydros, we just literally have a drop down box and a form that asks you for that. One of the biggest things that I think that gets lost in the hydros is every single output has what we call advanced features. You've seen them, right, Dave?
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. And the
People are
advanced,
asking, what are these advanced
yeah,
features?
what are advanced features? Well, we cover actually, we go with the advanced features are minimum time on,
Mhm.
minimum time off, maximum time on, maximum time off, and run past maximum time. Those are 5 little features in there that seem simple enough, but they can make or break a system.
Right.
Let's go with minimum time off first.
Yep.
All right, and that's one of my favorites. Okay, minimum time off allows you to ensure that the output is off for an X number of time before it turns on again. Now, Dave, tell me. I mean, this is an easy one. Why would you use minimum time off for?
Well, if you're running, you say you've got an ATO setup with
Hmm.
Hydros ATO, and you got some turbulent splashing or something in the sump, and that hits the sensor. So you set that time to minimum time off, and it won't allow that pump to keep kicking on and off.
Exactly. Which, think about this: grab your car and go woo, 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 woo,
Yeah,
woo, 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 all this thing, and just keep doing that. Keep doing that for hours. What do you
yeah,
think your car's going to do?
yeah.
You know,
It ain't going to
it'll
behave well long.
it ain't gonna be. Yeah, exactly. So think, and this is a car that has been developed R&D. Now let's talk about a simple tiny little pump that doesn't
Mhm.
have any of the features that a car has. Trust me, that pump is not going to last.
Right.
So minimum uptime, I think everybody should be using minimum uptime for everything.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, now let's go on to the next one: minimum time on. And
Yeah.
minimum time on is one of my this it's actually um, um one of my favorites, because it lets you make sure that the output is on for an X number of time before shutting off. And this is perfect for lights, right, Dave? I mean,
Exactly. Metal halides. So the restrike time.
exactly. Exactly. What I mean, and can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because I mean,
Well,
God, it's 2022. A lot
right.
of people don't use metal halides anymore.
Well, if you've used halides or you are still using halides, they require a time to cool before that filament can restrike again, meaning basically it can ignite the arc tube inside.
Exactly. And the thing about it is, it doesn't even have to cool off. It's just like, once you strike, then you have to give it time before you strike again.
Right.
It's almost like priming. It's almost like you got to let it prime before, you can't pull that choke,
Yeah.
too quickly, because otherwise it's just not going to turn on. So that's the same thing. And it comes handy with a lot of other devices. All right, let's go on to maximum time off.
Mm.
I like this one. And it's almost like a hidden thing, but I like it. It allows you to set a maximum time off for a device. And this is a great one. I like it because I use it for like um, um, protein skimmers.
Okay.
So one of the biggest things we have is like, we schedule a protein skimmer to um, um to shut off if the waste collector becomes full.
Hmm.
So it shuts off. I get a notification that the waste collector is full. Okay, that's fine. Well, likely, I am not knowing myself. It's going to take me like 3 or 4 notifications before I actually get to it. I'm not going to do it in the first one around. And
Right.
before I do that, it's going to be like a day. So having that maximum time off, let's say I make it 24 hours.
Mm.
Then at 24 hours, it's going to send me another notification, or I can even make a beep saying, hey, you know what? You forgot. You got to empty the collection cup because the
Yeah.
skimmer's been off for 24 hours. Let's do that. you
Right.
know
It'll get your attention with that alarm
it'll
then.
get my attention. Also, with an ATO, if an ATO hasn't ran
Yeah.
in 24 hours, there's something wrong. Something's not
Exactly.
right.
Yep.
Something's not right. If my clear filter hasn't advanced the fleece in 24 hours, most likely there's a hole. It's water
Fleece.
the fleece is the fleece is it, the fleece, the water's going around the fleece
Yeah.
and it's not advancing. So the maximum time off is actually quite handy, and
Yeah.
very few people actually use it. All right. And the last one is, the next one is maximum time on.
Mm.
And this is a great one.
Yeah.
Allows you to set the maximum time for a device to run. Dave, take it away, man. This one's yours.
Yeah. I mean, say, in this setup, you talk about an ATO, but if that ATO pump's running continuously, maybe something's defective with the pump. You want to have that max on time, alert sent to you. That's
Absolutely.
past time that was set.
Not only that, it could also mean that the reservoir is empty. So
Yeah.
the pump is running dry
Right.
because
It's
the
trying
sensor
to get something.
the sensor saying, "Hey, I'm dry, I need water." The pump
Yeah.
is pushing, but nothing is pushing. So
Right.
at that point, if you continue to run the pump dry, it's going to burn out.
Mm-hmm.
So what you want to do is have the maximum time on set to whatever you want, and then if that time expires, then stop the pump and send me a notification.
Yeah.
So again, those are little features that they don't seem like advanced, but you know what, and it's because the Hydros makes it so easy to use.
Yeah.
And the last feature, which is kind of it's kind of a like a obvious one but not so obvious, is run past maximum on time. And
Yeah.
that one allows you to decide if you want the output to continue to run even if the maximum time on has expired or exceeded. And a good example I'm going to do is I'm going to give you two examples. One example when you should actually have the device continue on, and one example when the device should stop. So this device, when it should continue on, is a heater.
Yeah.
A heater. Let's say you have your heater set, the maximum on time on the heater is set to like 3 hours. If you have a big heater, that heater should warm up the water in your tank without any issues, because it's not sitting outside. So what happens if after 3 hours the heater's still on? Then it's going to send me a notification. But technically, I don't want the heater to turn off, because it could be that the water is really cold, or the heater is having the ambience is very cold, and the heater is having a hard time
Keeping up. Yeah.
But it also could be that the heater is not working, that the heating element is not working. So the controller is turning the heater on, but the heater is not turning on.
Yeah.
So it's not going to damage it, but you're going to get a notification right away that there's something going on here. Either the room, somebody left the door open in the middle of the winter, or the heater element is not working anymore. So that's an example. Now, an example when you do not want to continue on would be an ATO pump.
Yeah.
An ATO pump would be just like we covered, a few seconds ago. If the pump continues to run, then you want to turn off that pump, because most likely the reservoir is empty and the pump is going to run dry. So at that point, shut off the pump so it doesn't damage the pump, and send me a notification. So in that case, the run past max on should be disabled. And I'm going to show you a little bit in here. I'm going to have April, our producer, share my screen, and I'm going to show you how easy it is. So here's a let's see, a return. No, here, Skimmer. Oh, wrong Skimmer. Let's create one. Add an output. We're going to call it Skimmer. Okay, create. All right, I'm going to set it up to be a protein skimmer. All right, and look at the bottom right here. See this right here? Minimum off time, maximum off time, minimum on time, maximum on time. Now, you do not see run past max because I haven't specified a maximum time. Let's say I make this one an hour. As soon as I do that, then it says run past max downtime and then notification. So, okay, that's how easy it is. And every single output has that feature. So you don't even have to write the code. You don't even have to go and click on the advanced programming button so that you can actually write the code. It's already there and ready to be written for you. We make it easy. Thank you, April. So those are the little things that make a difference. So while it could be considered advanced for another controller, for the Hydros, it is pretty basic stuff. So yes, just because you don't have to write code doesn't mean that it can't do it. All right. Thank you, James Scott, for the thumbs up. Yes, exactly. Ellery says that he still has 1,300 watts of PFO metal headlights, just in case somebody needs them. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see right here. Bless guy. Oh yeah, we have an Apex fan here. He says that they have superior dozen equipment for now.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way.
Stay tuned.
We don't sit on our laurels. Yep. Exactly. We're not. So yeah, sure. Just stay tuned. Okay, let's see right here. Are we going to see some more reporting functionality? I don't think this is the workshop for that. So the quick answer is going to be yes. Soon, that's debatable. It's all a matter of priorities. All right, let's see. So we'll leave it as that. Okay, and then Kevin, can't wait. I'm assuming the dosing, right? You'll see. You guys don't know what's gonna hit you. Let me just put it that way. You have no idea. All right, let's do this. All right, so let's move on in here. So another advanced feature that we make Hydros makes it so easy is repeating schedules and outputs. So what is a repeating schedule? A repeating schedule is something that repeats itself at a predetermined interval during 24 hours. So let's say, let's say running something for 5 minutes every hour. That's a repeating schedule. Okay. So there are two ways of doing it. You could write multiple schedules. So run a schedule that runs this item at 1 to 105. Then run a second schedule 2 to 205. Then run a third schedule, and you can write 24 schedules that run you 24, for 5 minutes every hour. Or you could just write one schedule and tell it to repeat itself at a set interval. That's the great thing of repeating schedules. So again, a repeating schedule allows you to create one schedule that repeats itself at equal intervals multiple times during a 24-hour period, which is great. So you can turn any output or any schedule, because outputs have schedules, but we also have set schedules that you can actually tie outputs into because we wanted the versatility. So the easiest thing to do this, the easiest thing to interpret the repeating schedule is to first figure out what you want. Programming is a little tricky because programming or anything, it requires you got to know where you're going in order to figure out how to get there. Right?
Yeah.
You got to know where you're going in order to figure out to this. So you got to ask yourself the question. So the question is, what is it that you want to do? So let's ask that question. What is it that I want to do? So I want to run an output from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. every hour for 10 minutes each. That's what I want to do. Right?
Yeah.
That's the question I'm going to ask. I mean, it's like when somebody on support asks me, it's like, hey, how does the repeating schedule work? Or how can I make this? And we're like, well, what is it that you want to do? Tell me. Tell me what is it that you want to do. So I want to run this output from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. every hour for 10 minutes. So the beauty about this thing is that this sentence tells you exactly everything you need to create a repeating schedule. All right. And I'm going to have April go to the next slide. There you go. Look at that. I want to run this output from 8 a.m. So 8 a.m. is my start time. 8 to 5 is my time range. Every hour is my run interval. And my run time is 10 minutes. Look at that. That's it. But let's break it down a little bit easier. All right. So I want to run this output from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. okay? Every hour for 10 minutes. So take a look at this part. I want to run this output from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. every hour for 10 minutes. 8 a.m. is your start time. Keep that in mind. 8 a.m. is your start time. And I'm going to have, uh, April share my screen. I'm going to create a generic output in here because I know the generic has has schedule, advanced features, and here we go. So here's my start time. My start time, we said, Dave, was 8 o'clock, right?
Yep.
All right, so let's set that to 8 o'clock. Let's go back to the slides. All right, so next slide. It says, let's ask the same question again. I want to run this output schedule from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every hour for 10 minutes. So this part, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., shows you the range. That's your time range. Okay, so it said if you had, I want to run this output every hour for 10 minutes, that assumes 24 hours a day, but we're actually making it a little more complicated, 8 to 5. So that's your time range. So now what we're going to do is when you state, let's go to the next slide, every hour, that means your interval. Okay, you want to run every hour. That's the interval. I want to run every hour. So now let's go to the Hydros screen and go to interval. At the bottom, you see interval. So I'm going to make this one 1 hour. All right, so let's go to the slide again. Okay, now on the sentence, when you state 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., that's giving you the time range. And every hour is your interval. So your run count is going to be the time range divided by the interval. So every hour means once every hour, 8 to 5. So how many hour blocks, how many hour intervals are between 8 and 5? 9. 9. That's it. So your interval is 9. So let's go to the app and let's do run count. I'm going to do 9. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Right there. Good. And the last thing we go to the last part of the sentence, which is for 10 minutes. That is your runtime. That's your runtime right there. So let's go back to the app. And then my runtime is going to be not 10 hours, but 10 minutes. Click OK. All right. So take a look at this. It starts at 8 a.m. The interval is 1 hour. Repeats itself 9 times. So it's 8 and stops at 5. And the runtime of the outlet, this outlet is going to be on for 10 minutes. That's it. That's how repeating schedule works. So again, it all goes back to that sentence. And I'm going to have April go back to, slide number 19, and that goes back to that sentence right there. If you know where you're going, you can break it down and know everything. And the other, let's be honest, the other controllers have something similar to this. You still have to ask in order to program. They program it a little bit differently, but again, in order to know how to program their repeating schedule feature, you still have to ask that question first. What is it that you want to do? Once you have that sentence, then you can break down that sentence and pull every single part, every single field from that sentence and plug it into Hydros. That's the way to do it. All right. So you've just created thank you, April. So you just created a output that turns on for 10 minutes once an hour for 10 minutes from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. So it turns out from 8 to 8:10, 9 to 9:10, 10 to 10:10, 11 to 11:10, and so forth. That's how it does.
Carlos, what would be some examples why somebody wants to set this type of intervals or this type of programming?
I think one of the biggest examples is our hurricane flow mode. So
Okay.
we know we have that hurricane flow, and what I do is a hurricane flow actually. A hurricane flow is actually something that we've kind of like created here at CoralView. It's no science, but it's like we run our pumps at 100% for
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes
Yep.
every hour.
Every hour.
Flow pumps, and what it does is it stirs up everything in the tank. It stirs it
Mm-hmm.
up, and then goes back to regular flows. You know, like
Yep.
your SBS, your whatever you call it, your sine wave or anything like that from for 50 minutes, but then every 10 minutes an hour it just stirs everything,
Yep.
so everything picks up, the skimmer can pull it out, and then it goes back to calm. So that's what we do. We call it the hurricane mode.
I like it
you know
too because sometimes some nori or something will get stuck in my pumps, my wave pumps, and
Correct.
just kicking it into that full hurricane mode will it be able to blow that through the intake. So it's
Yes,
just something we like here and incorporate into what we
exactly.
program.
Somebody asked me, says, does it work on the generics? No, it actually works. Yeah, it works on generics, but it also works on schedules. It works anything that has a schedule, any output that has a schedule, you can actually do a repeating schedule. So we give you the option. You can do a simple schedule, which is a start time and an end time, 10 a.m., 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. That's it. You're done.
Mm.
But we also give you the option on their advanced features where you can actually turn that simple schedule into a repeating schedule. That's pretty much what you do. And it says, let's see, could you stop something else from running while that runs for its 10 minutes? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you can actually go in and let's say you're running a feeding schedule, like you're putting feed schedule. You can actually have your skimmer depend on the feed schedule. So whenever the feed turns on, the skimmer shuts off.
Mhm.
And we'll show some examples that can do that. All right. If you want to see how to program the hurricane mode, we actually are not going to cover it here, but you can actually go to coralviewhydros.com and then get started. And then on the instructions manual, we actually give you examples. We have an example of a day flow pattern, a night flow pattern, and a hurricane flow pattern. So it's
Yep.
all there ready for you to just literally copy. All right. So those are things: minimum, maximum time on and off, and then the repeating schedules. Again, are two things that are considered advanced for some other controllers, but for us here at CoralView, it's part of a form that is available for you to use or not use if you don't want to.
Mhm.
So yes, we can do fancy stuff, but we can even do some more fancier stuff again, which is going to be great. So this is CoralView Hydro's workshop. Today we're covering advanced programming. My name is Carlos, and I'm here with my co-host David Dakin. If you like what you're seeing, we always stream live on Facebook and on YouTube. So please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, hit the thumbs up, and you'll be notified right away when we have a new show. This is great. If you have any questions on the product or what we're covering, but we didn't pick your question to be live, then please just head on over to forum.coralviewhydros.com and ask your question, and either one of us or one of the the Hydros expert users out there will be able to help you out and answer it. It's great. All right. So on the next segment, we're going to actually cover some examples of some advanced programming, um, uh, but we'll do that when we come back. So Stan, go get your wine, coffee, water, and we'll be back in a few seconds. I think that's by far one of my favorite commercials.
I can't
Hey,
imagine. I can't imagine why.
everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to this episode of Advanced Programming here on Hydros Workshops. My name is Carlos, and my co-host David Dakin, owner of CoralView. Yeah, that commercial is great. Let's face it, this is a male-dominated hobby. It is. Unfortunately, it is. It's the truth. Um,
We need
and
more ladies in this.
and we guys are notorious for not following instructions.
Come on.
And the worst thing about it is the more you think you know, the less you follow directions. So that is a great commercial. I love that commercial. My favorite. I'm gonna be playing that a lot.
Yeah.
No, anyway, follow the instructions, guys. You know, the Hydros has an extensive website with a lot of instructions there,
Yeah.
walking you through the process. So, you know, and I see that a lot on Facebook. It's how do you do that? And you know, it's like if you read the instructions, you probably wouldn't be asking the question.
Mhm.
So, please, you know what is it? Hashtag adulting. If you don't know what it is, look it up. Hashtag adulting. It's not bad, actually. It's kind of funny, but yeah, hashtag adulting. Look it up. All right. All right. So now that we've covered kind of like some of the some of the basic advanced features, because you know, again, Hydros covers advanced features, we just make it easy. Now let's jump into some examples.
Yeah.
You know, let's actually jump into some examples. So, all right, one of the greatest and most powerful things that Hydros includes are two types of outputs. Generics, we call them generics, and we call them, and then the other output is called combiner. Okay, so I get this question a lot. What's the difference between a generic and a combiner? So the easiest way to explain it is a generic, and that'll be picture number 2. The generic is actually, you use a generic when you want an output to rely on the status of multiple inputs. Let me make it clear. A generic uses inputs to trigger different things: temperature, you know, water sensor, leak detector, you know, skimmer overflow, pH, ORP. Those are inputs. So if you want an output to be triggered because the temperature is over 80 and the pH is below 7 and the leak detector is off, you use a generic. Okay.
Yeah.
But we also have a combiner, and a combiner actually is, you know, an output that relies or depends on the status of other outputs, not inputs. So let's say, an example would be, you know, like, your skimmer is going to turn off if your return pump and your feeder are turned on. So either one. So if your return pump, shut off my skimmer. If my feeder is turned on, shut off my skimmer. You know, those are two outputs that are feeding into another output. So it's not a sensor, it's not a temperature. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
generics rely on inputs, sensors. Combiners rely on other outputs. All right. So with that said, let's go ahead and create the first example. And we've covered this one before in a previous workshop. You know, this is one of my favorites because I have this tank in here and it's got multiple doors and it's black, which means that when I open the door, I have to be able to see what's inside.
Mhm.
If I can't see what's inside, I get mad, you know. And if I get mad, then bad things tend to happen,
Yeah.
which then I pay for later because then I have to clean up my own mess.
Right.
Exactly. Dave, you don't know anything about that,
Oh,
right?
no, not at all.
Okay, so what I wanted to do was I wanted to install an LED light on the underside of my cabinet, and I want to open. So I have two sensors that when I open the doors, either door, my LED turns on right away. All right, but at the same time, I want to make sure that if I leave the door open for too long, like let's say for an hour, don't keep that light on forever. You know, especially in the middle of the night. If I leave the door open for an hour, then after an hour, shut off the light. So, okay. So this is what we need. In picture number 3, April. So this is what I need. I need 2 sensors. I need two available sense ports. Thank you, April. I forgot about that part. And I need to create a generic output. So let's jump into it right away. And this is an example. Here is what I want to see in picture number 4, April. This is technically what we want to do, you know, for those that you want to see. Look at that. Yeah, open the door, turn on the light. That's simple it is. And if it's more than an hour, then I turn it off. So let's jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. So what I've done is I've already created the 2 sensors, door left and door right. Okay. And I have them right here. So you can see right here on my screen. I mean, I see everybody sees me in small. And here, maybe April, can you switch me to 2 to split me so people can see what I'm doing as well?
Yeah.
That would be great. Can you make me a little bigger? I don't know if you can. There you go. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this smaller for everybody to see. Is that better? Can everybody see me? Okay. Good. All right. So now I can't see April, just the 2 of us, if you don't mind. Just the screen and myself. Dave, I'm going to have to, there you go. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to move this down in here a little bit right here. I can't see it. I'm sorry, April. Let's go back to the way it was before because I can't see myself. April. That's better. Thank you. That's much better. That's better. All right. So here's my screen. I'm going to make this bigger now since April made it a little bigger. All right. Can everybody see that? All right. Okay. So as you can see right here, what I'm going to do is I have the sensors right here already preset. And if I go ahead and open up my door, I'm moving the little sensors away. You can tell let me refresh the screen right here. The door is open. I'm going to close the doors again. Here, doors are closed. So now I'm going to create a new light. I'm going to go to add. I'm going to hit plus symbol, and it's going to be called cabinet light. Create. I'm going to make it a generic because I need this output to turn on based on the 2 door sensors, 2 inputs. So let's make this one right there. So first input is going to be door left, and second input is going to be door right. Okay, so now you want this output to activate when? That means I want the output to turn on when? Well, I want the output to turn on when the door left is open, and I definitely want the output to turn on when the door right is open. Now, here's the beauty about the hydros. The hydros allows you to do and or. So you can select, you can say, I want this output, this light to turn on if my door left is open and my door right is open. Or I could say, I want the output, I want the light to turn on if my door left is open or my door right is open. So if you want the lights to turn on only if the 2 doors are open, then you use and. If you want the lights to turn on when you open either door, then you say or. All right. And again, let's be honest. The other controllers don't have this feature. The other controllers rely on and. You can only do and, you know, but we can do or. So let's go ahead and do or right here. All right. And let's go ahead and output device. I'm going to make it my, my XP8 right here and upload the changes. All right. All right. So let me go back to the status screen right here. And I've created this cabinet light. See, the 2 doors are closed. So my cabinet light is off. So now let's go ahead and open the door. And look at that. The light just turned on. Let me close the door. Look at that. Light turns off. Let me open up both doors. Look at that. Light turn on. Let me close only one door. Light still on. Let me close the second door. Light turned off. All right. Let's bring in Dave. Thank you, April. So what'd you think, Dave?
I love that. It's so convenient, just to be able to open those doors and see what you're doing. Seems something
Exactly.
small or trivial, but you don't want to have a light running in there nonstop. And not to mention, I've had that before, and then you start getting algae within the skimmer or calcareous algae buildup where you don't need it. And so it really is a big thing to have lights, turn off when you're not using or you don't need to be in your cabinet.
Absolutely. And now what we're going to do is, we haven't finished programming, because the next part of the programming is if we want to turn off the lights if they exceed more than 1 hour. So I'm going to we just covered that on the previous segment. We're going to use a maximum on time or maximum time on. So I'm going to ask April to share my screen again. All right. Thank you, April. So I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to go back into the cabinet light, and I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to do advanced settings, scroll down a little bit, and it says maximum on time. Let's set that to 1 hour. And then run past max on time. Nope. Do I need an alarm? No, not really. Let's upload. And that is it. That's all you need to do. So now we have it set so that when I do this, open up my cabinet doors, the light turns on. And then I do my things, and then my wife says, you got to throw the garbage out or something like that. So I got to go and throw the garbage. Then I get distracted because the neighbor's outside, and he says, you want to have a beer? So I was like, yeah, sure. So I go into the garage, get my beer, and I'm there. And then, 2 hours later, then it's like, oh crap, I left the cabinet doors open. So at that point, when I come back, the light will be off. Now we're not gonna, we're not gonna wait an hour in here to let it turn off. So I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna go ahead and go back in here and make this one 10 seconds. Click OK and do that. I'm gonna close the doors because I can. All right, let me go back to the status screen. And there it is, maximum on time. It was on for too long. All right, so now I close the doors and the light turned off. So I open the door again, and then it turns on. And as you can see right now, you'll see is after 10 seconds, the light will automatically shut off, and it'll show me a red tile saying, hey, this is not supposed to be on. So I turned it off for you. But as soon as I close the door, it'll clear it off. That's it. That is what a generic does. And that's the simplest way I can do it. It's a simple but very handy little example. If you want more details on this example, just head on over to our YouTube channel. There's a workshop on 0 to 10 volt programming. And we've actually broken it down, how to program, how to add the sensor, how to program the sensor, and do this same exact example. So if you want more details into that, please head on over that, but it's easy. It's very easy. All right. I think next Revapalooza, we should do something like this, Dave. We should put some doors in there and kind of program a little more fancy, to show it off. All right. So let's jump into the next example. The next example is going to get a little more complicated. All right. So our next example is going to be based on a fan. So what I want to do is I have hood fans. Well, I don't, but I'm going to make that example. I have hood fans, and I want them to run if the temperature inside the hood is above 80 degrees. But the problem with hood fans as well is that I also want the fan to turn on for a certain amount of time every hour. Because what happens is if you don't, during the winter time, if the fans don't move, the humidity accumulates there, and then the fans cease. They get stuck. So by moving them every so often, then you're kind of keeping the, it's like a car. You can't leave a car sitting there in the garage for years. It'll just get stuck. You got to take it out. You got to stretch its legs. So we're going to do the same thing. So here's what we need. We're going to need a fan. We're going to need a temperature sensor. We're going to need an available sensor. We're going to need 2 generics and 1 combiner. All right, so let's get to work here. All right, so I'm going to go into my Hydros here and then have April share my Hydro screen. So I have the temperature right here, and I have a fan that I've created. Now, this is a simple fan, okay? It's just a simple fan that I've created. It tells me the temperature on and off, but that's it. That's it. It just runs the fan if the temperature is on or off. It doesn't run the fan if you it doesn't run the fan if the temperature is below 80 degrees. So let's make it a little more complicated here. So we're going to go back in here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a generic. I'm going to create it, and I'm going to call it fan schedule. Create. All right, so I have my fan schedule there. I'm going to create a generic output. I'm going to make it 0 because I just need all I need is an output. We call them virtual outputs. It's an output that goes nowhere, that keeps the schedule running. All right. So what I'm going to need is has schedule. Now I want this output to turn on every for 5 or 10 minutes every hour. Yeah, for 1 minute every hour. All right. So I don't need this simple one. I need the advanced one. I need the repeating schedule. So here it is. So again, I asked myself the question. It's like, what do I want to do? I want this device or this output to turn on every hour for 1 minute. Every hour for 1 minute. Okay, so every hour. Start time means midnight because it's every hour. I didn't say when to start, when to end. I wanted start time is midnight. Okay, run interval is I want the device to run for 1 minute every hour for 1 minute. So every hour is my run interval. So this would be a 1. Then I didn't say a start time or an end time. All I said is every hour. That means it's 24/7. So run count, I can make it 24, or easy enough, 0 equals no limit. It just repeats over and over and over again. And then go back to the sentence. I want this output to turn on every hour for 1 minute. So my runtime is 1 minute. Right there. And click upload changes. There you go. So I've created literally a schedule that will turn on and off 1 minute every single hours. So now we need to create a new generic output, all right, that will turn on my fan if the temperature is above 80 degrees. So let's go here. I'm going to create a new output. And I'm going to call this one fan temp. Okay. Right? All right. So here. And I'm going to call it's a generic. Now the input is going to be temperature because I want the temperature. I want to be 78 to 80. So we're just going to go ahead and click this. And we're going to make this one 80. We're going to make this one 78. All right. I want the fan to turn on when the temperature is high. Okay. and that's it. Again, it's going nowhere because I just want them. They're like they're dead end outputs that don't actually turn anything on and off. I'm going to use them to trigger different things. Okay, so you got a fan schedule that runs 1 minute every hour, and then I have a output that turns on when the temperature is above 80 degrees. So now finally we need to create a combiner that takes these two inputs, these two outputs, and puts them together. So we're going to go ahead and do this plus, and I'm going to call this hood fan create. And now I'm going to make it a combiner. So now I'm going to use my output fan schedule, and I'm going to use my output fan temperature. So now it's asking me the question. I want to turn on the fan when the fan schedule is on, and I want to turn on the fan when the fan temperature is on. Again, the fan schedule will turn on for 1 minute every hour, and the fan temperature will turn on when the temperature is above 80. So I wanted to turn on when the fan schedule is on, or not and, or when the fan temperature is, above 80. Let's do that. My XBA2, and let's click on that. All right. So there's your status. Here's your hood fan. Okay. So now my temperature is, 79.1. Let's see if I can, maybe I can make it 79.1. Let's make it. So what I'm going to do is, for our purposes here, I'm going to lower that temperature on the fan temperature. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this to, for our purposes, I'm going to lower this to 76, and I'm going to lower this to 78. I'm going to do that and then upload the changes. So that should that should turn on the fan. So there you go. The fan is on. Okay. The fan is on and it's working. Now I can, we can return that to the way it was before. So 80 and then 78, something like that. All right. And then the fan is still on because it's right now is the fan temperature is still on, and that's because it's right here. The temperature is not high enough. There you go. That should do it. The temperature is not low enough. There you go. So that turns the fan. Now, if I want to see this fan schedule trigger, let's go ahead and change this to, what is it? It's 5:02. Let's change this to 5 minutes. Click OK. So I'm saying run for 5 minutes at the top of every hour. If I do that, that's because the fan schedule is still not ready there. But as soon as I turn this on, if I turn this on, look, the fan turns on. If I turn this on, the fan turns on. So I'm just forcing it, faking it here. You see that? So just like I turned it on manually, it doesn't matter. As long as this turns on manually, or it turns on because the temperature is above 80, or this turns on manually, or is it because it's already the time of the day to turn on, it's going to turn this fan. So that's what a combiner does. All right. That makes it two outputs. So you've created two outputs that are created two outputs that we can use to work with another output.
Yeah.
That makes it a lot easier. Thank you, April.
With the summer right around the corner, that's a really a great one to have in your pocket. Those cooling fans, you don't really need a chiller now with LED lighting, but having those cooling fans can definitely give you a couple degrees in cooling.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it's crazy what it can do with the fans, and I actually run them during the summer too,
Mhm.
but during the winter time I do the same thing. I still um, run the fans for 1 or 5 minutes because it makes it easier,
Yeah.
and it makes it easier on the fan. All right. All right. So let's move on here.
Yeah.
So you're watching CVtv workshops. Um, uh, my name is Carlos, and I'm here with my co-host David Dockin, owner of CoralView, and we do this live streams workshops, twice a month, once a month. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bells, hit the bell, hit the thumbs up, and you'll be notified right away when we have a new show. If you have any questions on what you're seeing right here, you can always head on over to forum.coralviewhydros.com, and the folks over at the forum, fellow hobbyists or the staff here at CoralView, will be able to help you with any questions you have. All right. So the next one is a little more complicated,
Mm.
you know, and I'm seeing that I'm is it just me, or am I freezing a little bit here?
Yeah, it's a little choppy, Carlos.
It's a little choppy.
But we hearing you. It's all good.
All right. I mean, I can try refreshing here my computer. This is the problem with live streams. So let
Right.
me try refreshing the computer. Let me try refreshing my stream. I might lose you guys for a second, but then it'll be worth it. Okay, hold on.
So now the next part we want to talk about is if or. Um, if or is a settings. If something happens or this happens, then do this. So that's what we're gonna. You back?
I am back, I think.
Yeah.
Is it good or still choppy?
You look like you're all right now.
I'm all right now. All right, good. Good, 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 good. All right, so let's get going in here. Let's see. All right. So what we're gonna do now is we are going to I'm gonna share my screen again. April, sorry about that. Okay, so share my screen, Chrome tab. Here it is. Share that. Okay, so there we are. We're back. All right. So here we go. Now let's go on and do the last of the examples. And we saved the last one, the most complicated for the best for the best. Okay, so here's what I want to do with the last one, and I'm going to ask April to show this one. All right, so I want my skimmer to turn off if my return pump is off, or my feeder is on, or I push my skimmer button. So thank you, April. Number 9. There you go. So look at that. My return pump is off, my Wi-Fi feeder is on, or I push the button that says stop the skimmer. That seems complicated, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Seems a little complicated. So let's go ahead and jump in. All right. So I've created already the skimmer button right here. It's already there. I have it here. It's a handy little box. Here, April, you want to show me again for a little second? Thank you, April. And everybody can see this. I have a button box right here. All right. All right. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and do this. Thank you, April. You can go back to Dave in there. All right. So I created the button. It's right there. And I'm going to have April show picture number 10. All right, so there's a button. It's a 0 to 10 volt button. Mode is button. Input is channel 1. Trigger voltage is 3 volts. Event duration is 1 hour. And then this is the fun thing about the buttons on hydros. We have a button has two options. You can actually have, when you press a button, remember, a button is not a switch. A button is one thing that you press and it releases when you remove your finger. A switch is something that you turn on and actually have to flip it. And then to turn it back off, you have to flip it down. So we have two versions of that. And the beauty about the Hydros is that we actually have two actions that you can do on a button. On a button, if you press the button once, it'll start the event. But then you have an option. If you press the button again, you have an option. You can restart the event or you can cancel the event. Now, believe me, I don't know, and don't quote me, but I don't think the other controllers can do this. And if can, it'll require some intricate programming. So we do it right off the top. Okay. So let's see the button right there. So here's the button. You know, I press the button. And I'm sorry, the screen is not refreshing. And it's on. I press it again and it's off. There you go. Or if I press it again, it's on. And then if I don't do anything, in an hour from now, it'll turn off. Okay, so I'm going to press it again. And that turns it off. All right, perfect. So we got the button. Next thing you know is I need to create a combiner to control my pump return and feeder. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a combiner here. And I'm going to call this one, I'm going to say skimmer off 1. Create. It's going to be a combiner. I want this combiner to turn on if my return pump or my feeder. So I want the combiner to turn on if my return pump is off. Now, the combiner assumes that this return pump is on, so I want to invert it. So I don't want it to act when it's on. I want it to act when it's off. So I'm going to invert that. But on the feeder, I want the combiner to turn off. I'm sorry. I want the combiner to turn off if the feeder is on. So I'm going to go inverse. Okay. So I'm going to return pump. I'm going to invert it. And the feeder, I'm going to leave it the way it is. And again, and or. Well, I want the return pump. In order to turn this outlet on, I want the return pump to be off or the feeder to be on, not both. So I'm going to switch this to or. Again, I'm quote me, correct me if I'm wrong, the guys in the chat, but I don't believe that the other controllers can do or. They can only do and. All right. So it's going to be an empty device, nothing else. All right. And we're going to go ahead and upload the changes. All right. That created one of my combiners. Now I'm going to create a second combiner. And I'm going to call this one, actually, I'm going to create a generic. So this one's skimmer off 2. Create. And it's going to be a generic. All right. And now the generic is going to be 2 things. If the button, which is an input, and if the skimmer water, if my collection cup is full, that's another input. That's why I selected a generic and not a combiner. So we have 2. Input, we're going to make it skimmer cup. And I want this output to be on when the skimmer cup is dry. That's perfect. All right. And then and I want the button. So here is my skimmer off button. And I want this to be when it's up. Okay. So remember, I want to turn it, I want the output, I want the skimmer to be on when the skimmer cup, the waste collector is dry or the button is on. If I push the button, I want the skimmer to be off. So what we're going to do in this case is the combiner mode is and, because in order for the skimmer to be on, both the collection cup has to be dry and the button has to be up. If either one of them is different, if the collection cup is wet or the button is down, I want it to shut off. So that's why we're using and, not using or. All right? Exactly. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to upload the changes. All right. So the last thing we're going to do now is we're going to go into the depends on and use the combiner skimmer off one. Upload changes. So I think I got this right. I think I got this right. All right. So let's see. Control generic on, button on, etc. Depends on. Oh, I forgot something in here. Skimmer. Here is my generic. Sorry, the generic is right here, and that is going to be off if on. There you go. There you go. So actually this one should be called Skimmer. And we're going to just call it Skimmer. Name, upload the changes. There you go. All right. So we said, all right. So this skimmer right now we've created is going to, if I press the button, it's going to shut off. Look at that. The button is on, the skimmer is off. If I press the button again to cancel the event, the skimmer turns on. Look at that. Now let's say I turn off my return pump. If my return pump is off, look at my skimmer. It's shut off. See what I see that? If I turn my return pump back on to auto, it's waiting, still off. Remember, because I have a minimum off time in here. So it's gonna wait, it's gonna wait, it's gonna wait until this return pump turns on. As soon as the return pump turns on, look at that. Skimmer goes back on. Now I'm gonna go ahead and feed. I turn the feeder on. Look at my skimmer. Turned off. As soon as the feeder is off, the skimmer turns back on. All right. Thank you, April.
Carlos, that's some pretty intricate, programming there. I think that would require a good bit of coding if that was another controller. Would you agree?
Yes.
That's when I would be making the call to Carlos. Please help.
I know. I remember, I remember the old days when Jeremy or yourself is like, hey, how do you do this? Let me log in there and do it for you. Yeah, exactly. So, that's the one thing. It's like we wanted to make the hydros as easy as possible. And, we know what we wanted to do and we know how we wanted to do it. So we decided to make it as easy as possible. And that's how you use combiners with generics. So technically what I did is I use a depends on. So an output depends on another output, but on hydros, an output if you use the depends on part of the output. Let me go back to the screen and April, can you please share the screen for me, please? Okay, so when you go here, let me use the return pump for an example. If I go to the return pump and I go depends on, unfortunately, I can only choose one thing. So I can depend on the skimmer, I can depend on the cabinet light, I can depend on the temperature, on many sorts of things, but I can only depend on one thing, So a combiner allows me to combine two things into one virtual outlet and then use that one virtual outlet to use on the skimmer. So technically, in a roundabout way, you're actually grouping two things into one group and then using that group as a depends on the return pump. So I could easily just like I have on the skimmer right here. So I have a combiner, my skimmer combiner is right here, you know, that uses the return pump and the feeder. I could easily add more. I could easily add, you know what, if the cabinet light turns on, you know,
Yep.
I could add more. I could bring it down to just one, which is the return pump, or I could add two, or I could do three or four or five or six or seven. You know, I could do as many as I want. So that limitation on the WYSIWYG on the form of the skimmer that has only one depends. Sorry, I went to these here, the skimmer. Yeah, the skimmer right here. The skimmer right here that only has one depends. It's solved by me creating a new group that I can depend on. And not only I can do the group, but I can actually do different things on the group. So I can do, you know, I can create a group that is and, so the return pump and the um, um, and the feeder. And then I can create another group that says, you know, a light and you know, my recirculating pump, and then create another group that grabs the first group and the second group, combines them together into another group, and then use that group for the skimmer. So it's kind of like saying, you know, if return pump and feeder are on, or if my cabinet light and my recirculating pump are off, that if any of that happens, any of those two conditions happen, then turn on or turn off my skimmer.
Yeah.
So the logic can be very complicated. It can actually do a lot of very complicated logic, which again are things that other controllers have a hard time doing. They can do to some extent, but it's difficult and it takes a lot of coding and programming. You know, it's not something that you're just going to be able to figure out yourself. You're probably going to have to Google and ask questions and learn the syntax on how to type it in correctly. You know, so again, just because the Hydros looks easy doesn't mean it cannot do anything complicated. It can still do a lot of complicated things.
Yeah.
You know. All right. So I see the comments in there. It says easy peasy, all done with no coding. You know, you can always, you know, it's like somebody was driving. Don't watch this while you're driving, please.
Yeah.
Don't. You know, Thomas says, got another good combiner example. I use 3 generic inputs with rising nitrates and phosphate inputs from my Mastertronic to drive my Chaeto reactor light for 8, 12, or 16 hours, depending on the level. Look at that.
That's pretty cool.
So that is very cool. So so I'm guessing, Thomas, if the light, if the higher the nitrates or the phosphates, the longer you run the lights.
Yeah.
That is actually quite complicated to do.
Yeah.
That is great. You know, and again, we also make things advanced very easy. We have that feature where you can say the calcium reactor tracks your pH, which requires no coding at all because it's already into the preset. Again, those are things that you can't do. The other controllers can, but it would require a fair amount of coding. It's not something you can do right off the forms. All right. So we wanted this workshop. You're watching CoralView workshops. Today is advanced programming, and it's mainly because over the last few months we've heard out there's a number of people that have said that the Hydros is simple. The Hydros can only do simple things. It can't do hard programming. So we decided to put out a workshop that shows you how intricate that is. And I mean, let's be honest, Dave, that last example, that's an extreme.
Oh yeah.
That is an extreme. I mean, 90% of the population out there will never use something that's like this. And again, this is something that, again, this show is mainly for advanced programmers. It's not for newbies out there, though it's a great video to watch. but it's mainly for advanced people that have implied knowledge already of how the equipment works and what you need to do for that equipment. Thomas had a great example, run the Chato lights
Hmm.
longer with the higher nitrates. That's because he knows that the longer you run the lights, the more the Chato grows. The more the Chato grows, it consumes nitrates and phosphates. So you have to make that connection. And newbies, most of the new people out there is they haven't gotten there yet. You
Yeah.
know,
I
not
wanted to have this show just to show how robust this controller really is, and what it can do. You know.
exactly, exactly. And um, I know that I know Connor was answering those questions a fair number out there at the
Hmm.
shows,
Yep.
explaining to people that, yeah, it can do complicated things. So you can see, and when I was over at Briefapalooza, I was over at RAP in Denver. I actually had a lot of folks that said, "Oh wow, I did not know this," and then they
Right.
would say to me, "It's like, wow, you can actually do more intricate programming than the other controllers can," and I
Right.
go, "Yes, yes." But again, just because we look easy,
Mm.
some folks think that we can't do things complicated, you
Yep.
know? So that's advanced programming,
Hmm.
So anyway, you're watching CVtv Workshops here. My name is Carlos. I'm here with my co-host David Dockin. We do this show every, once or twice a month. If you like what you've seen, if you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, also hit the bell or hit the thumbs up and you will be notified when you get a new show. If you have any questions about this product, head on over to forum.coralviewhydros.com. There's a lot of people, including myself, including a lot of experts out there that have been using the system for a long time, and they are happy to answer your questions. The only rule is that you ask nicely.
Hmm.
If you don't ask nicely, you're not going to get any answers. Trust me, you won't. All right. We also have CoralView Cares. It's a Facebook group where you can ask any questions you want about any product, regardless of where you purchased. If you purchased it at CoralView, that's fantastic. If you didn't, you purchased somewhere else, no problem. We don't care as long as you get your questions answered, and you treat your fish and your corals correctly. We don't care. You're good to us. You're good to us. And if you have any questions, if you're that person that doesn't want to ask on the forum and doesn't want to do Facebook, you want one-on-one help, please head on over to support.coralview.com and submit a ticket, and one of our reps will be able to get to you usually within a few business hours. All right.
And don't forget, want people to chime in and let us know what they'd like to see. We always open to suggestions and making this a better product. So, please comment. What would you like to see? We're happy to
Abs-
hear it. We know, look, we're up against somebody that's been on the market for over 20 years. We've not even 2 years into this. So there's a lot more in the pipeline, and we're just getting started, really. So we're happy to hear your feedback and what we can do to make it better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what it's like, I believe I answered that question on Facebook. It was, we just ask for your patience.
Yeah.
Which, it's, and I'm not asking you to wait for years.
Right.
I know somebody asked about an API, and that was earlier and I saw the question, but I
Mhm.
was in the middle of answering stuff. But the API, let me just put it this way. It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be next week,
Yeah.
but we are working on it. There is it's like if you develop products, I mean, any job you do, there's a priority list that you have.
Yeah.
There's the things that you have to do pile. Then there's the pile of the things that if I have time, I'll do those things.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have two piles, and then those piles are stacked in order of importance. Just because you're in the pile doesn't mean we're going to get to you tomorrow. Then on that pile, the top things get done first, the bottom things get done last. That's how a product gets developed. That's how
Mhm.
you work. You can't do everything all at once.
Yeah.
So and I know this, I said this on Facebook. The other controllers out there, I think there's two, three out there, I don't know. It's like they've been around for years. They did
Mhm.
not have all their features right out of the gateway.
Right.
All the features that they got now have been released throughout time,
Yep.
not all at once. So, we're working on it. Just because you don't see anything happening doesn't mean that we're not working on it.
Oh, there's
We, we
plenty going on behind the scenes. You know that,
yes, exactly.
Carlos.
Exactly. And that's the one thing that we do here at CoralView. When it comes to the hydros, every product is held very close to the
Yeah.
vest. Every product, every feature, we hold it close to the vest, and then we release it. So
We have
uh,
to, you know.
yes, we have to. All right. So hopefully everybody liked this thing. Everybody liked this show. Everybody understood. If you have any questions, again, just head on over to forum.coralviewhydros.com and you will be able to ask the question in detail. So, on behalf of April, our producer, David, my co-host David, owner of CoralView, also Jeremy, our graphic designer. My name is Carlos, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.